I mean, so much for winter break. We're driving all the way across the state, up and down the East Coast. We're on the road again, another road environment, ping ponging all around. Can't shake this cold, but can you feel that? Winter is coming. Portal season is coming right around the corner. Had to jump on here for another edition of Kolby's Corners Live, coming to you here live from the nation's capital on December 29th, year of our Lord 2025. Most likely the final show of calendar year 2025. Hope everyone has a safe and happy new year on Wednesday. Make sure to follow and subscribe to the show right there to stay plugged in on showtimes, unless there's some breaking news like there was right before we went on. Virginia Tech's got a new special teams coordinator. We'll get into that. Some early portal names, quarterback targets, and also just do a larger staff roundup and talk on some names that we've heard there a little bit. But appreciate everyone jumping in here. We'll get into some of the breaking news and the portal stuff. But first off, like I said, last show of the year. Been reflective over the last couple of days, trying to kick this cold, and obviously it's been busy with the portal and everything still, and expecting it to get much more busy in the coming days. I know the lull has maybe got some people going, waiting for January 2nd. It's going to pick up steam pretty quickly, but just want to emphasize and continue to emphasize how grateful I am for everyone for getting the show up and running off the ground here in 2025. Looking forward to making an even better product going into 2026. So if you're new, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. It's completely free right down there. Just click subscribe. Last time I asked, 69% viewers who are watching were not subscribed. We're now down to 63%. Let's try and keep getting that number lower. So make sure to subscribe to the show. Helps me out a ton. If you have questions, dump them in the live chat. I'm fighting. I'm on the road, a little under the weather. I'm going to go through some intel, but mostly let's drive it from your questions. So let's have a happy new year. Dump some questions in the chat and we'll get into it. But thank you guys so much. Genuinely, it means the world. But first off, with that, let's touch on some of that breaking news. Doug Shearer, hearing that name here now, Evan G. Watkins from 24/7 Sports VT Scoop, breaking down that news that Virginia Tech will hire Doug Shearer as their special teams coordinator. Trying to do a quick, rapid analysis on him just right before you go live, because not a name we were familiar with. This was someone who was a special teams coordinator at UConn under Jim Mora recently, until he went out and took that job at Colorado State. And, we'd been on this program, we'd been on VT Scoop sort of pumping up, Justin Lustig, looking at him from Penn State, the special teams coordinator up there. He was coaching special teams and Nichols up there. His relationship with James Franklin, that looked like something that was going to materialize to Blacksburg, and obviously didn't go that way. It sounds like Lustig is probably in line to be retained up there in State College with Matt Campbell. And as soon as that news, it sounds like, sort of trickled down to James Franklin, they moved pretty swiftly to bring in Doug Shearer. Still a lot to play out. Spent former time at Miami of Ohio, as well as NC State. Shout out Doug Bowman. Doug Bowman also, right before he went live, posted some FEI metric ranks for the special teams units that he's coached. So as Virginia Tech is filling out the staff, obviously special teams. So 2019, Miami of Ohio was 20th. 2020, Miami of Ohio was 7th. 2021, Miami of Ohio was 69th. 2022, when he became the head guy at UConn, was 108th. 23 at UConn was 90th. 24 at UConn was 99th. And this year saw a significant improvement, going from 99th to 33rd at UConn. And once again, that is the FEI special teams ranked by year under Doug Shearer. Not exactly sure the relationship with James Franklin, obviously up in the northeast quarter there. But they moved pretty swiftly when it seemed like Justin Lustig was not going to go that way. So still a lot to pan out there. Obviously, you still have Matt Colangelo coming over from Penn State as an assistant special teams coordinator. So, it'll be really interesting. But big hire to land there. I know there's been a lot of discussion about wrapping up and rounding out the staff. So that was a big piece of the puzzle there right before we went live. So field some questions about that, but that's kind of all that know at this point. Just make sure to subscribe to the show. And we'll jump right into it, because that was part of the staff, but we'll jump straight into the portal, because there's been a lot of heated discussion over on the VT Scoop message board, certainly regarding the transfer portal and some of these early names that are coming out. as we're getting post notifications as we're rolling. But first off, for Virginia Tech, they had a couple portal entries there over the last couple of days. Quarterback Pop Watson first made his intentions to enter the portal a couple of days ago, and this was something that was shaping up that it was trending that direction. Obviously, redshirt sophomore has 2 years of eligibility. It was moving that direction. You know, the writing was on the wall. The staff that recruited you is out of town and been passed over multiple times. So that was intended, and you know, it was even speculated up until last year when they got that deal signed. But obviously, you know, a lot of feelings there with Pop Watson and what he was able to do last year. You know, Bassmaster1297 in the chat just said, "Wish Pop Watson the best. Never forget the UVA game." Like that UVA game will forever be a moment in Virginia Tech history. All the best to Pop from G. Berry, someone who came in here and was undersized. And, you know, I think even in game action this year, he came in, threw a really good competitive catchable ball, which people were clamoring for quite a while, and, you know, ran for a touchdown and caused a little bit of a spark. Now, you didn't see much of that for reasons, especially there late in the UVA game, but no surprise to see Pop Watson enter the portal, as he was not going to be the long-term answer at Virginia Tech for James Franklin at the quarterback position. As well with him, Cameron Seldon, former four-star, number one player in Virginia from a couple cycles ago in the 23 class out of Northumberland up on the Northern Neck. A really dynamic track and field athlete, was obviously a running back at Tennessee. Cam Seldon came to Virginia Tech, transitioned to wide receiver, and a big player in this recruitment was Gunter Brewer. Obviously, as soon as Cam Seldon sort of lands here, Brewer is off to Marshall to be the tight ends coach. Never really found his footing, was actually second on the team in receptions, but his average was much lower. Scored that touchdown, I believe, against NC State and Wake Forest, or maybe it was Miami, I forget. I think he had one in Lane as well, but someone where you never really saw that dynamic playability. He scored that touchdown in the spring game, and that was probably his biggest cat buster big play that he made in a Virginia Tech uniform. All the intangibles were there. He just didn't exactly show. He was also a guy in the kick return game, so it'll be interesting to see where they turn there. But yeah, those are sort of the portal departures to keep an eye on. Now we'll get into some targets. I'm sure there'll be some names in the chat I'd be more than happy to get into. And I just want to make a note. Sorry, I'm sick, sniffles, but these are just some early names to track. It's not a big board, just some names that there's some linkage already. I'm only going to list the players right now that have already entered the NCAA transfer portal. Obviously, Penn State connection. There's going to be guys who have not entered yet. Their bowl game was on Saturday, so expecting still some movement there. But I had this article over on vtscoop.com. Make sure to go check it out. If you haven't seen it, early portal targets to keep an eye on. And starting it off, Bo Pribula, the quarterback position, coming from Missouri, obviously has a long-standing relationship with James Franklin, coming from Penn State. Dual threat quarterback, can hurt you with his arms and his legs. I know that 11 touchdown to 9 interception ratio this year at Missouri has really deterred some people, and it's led to some pretty spirited conversation over on VT Scoop about his ability, hearing some early, like I said, early returns that there's positive momentum there between Virginia Tech and Pribula to get him on the roster for 26. Obviously, a lot of different opinions. I'm sure we'll get into that in the Q&A section, but there's a familiarity there, and there's belief in his ability, not only as a runner, but also as a passer. I thought he showed some pretty big improvements. I know the 9 interception figure is way too high. I think he would tell you it's way too high. You can't put the ball in danger that much. Late one against Alabama. There was one in his first game where it got tipped at the line by a defensive lineman, sort of hurt the throw. I believe it was against Arkansas when he was back off of dislocating his ankle, threw a couple in that game. It's still too many, but doesn't really tell the full picture when you still lead your team to 8-4 in SEC play. Andy got hurt. I mean, dislocated his ankle, rushes back for the end of the regular season. I know he sat out the bowl game, but is a competitor, has a relationship with Franklin, and that would definitely be a name to watch for Virginia Tech. Bo Pribula at quarterback. Also sticking at that quarterback position, have heard some tie-ins with Luke Kromenhoek, the former Florida State quarterback, transferred to Mississippi State this year, played for Florida State in that really, really tough 2024 year. He was a top 247 quarterback, another really, really highly rated guy when Florida State season sort of went off the rails. This year at Mississippi State, took the back seat Mississippi State had another really highly rated guy in there that won the job over him. But Cromenhawk coming out of high school, and you'll see this a lot, and I want to emphasize this in the portal. James Franklin and staff, they're really going to target guys a lot like Pry did at Virginia Tech. Guys that not only are just really quality for their position, but guys that they had a connection with recruiting out of high school. And those previous relationships, it's a relationship business at the end of the day, and they're certainly going to lean into that. So I think that'd be a name to watch at the quarterback position. 3 years of eligibility, obviously, as opposed to Bo Pribula with the 1 year, some time to mold and form to try and develop a quarterback. Obviously, you have Troy Hune coming in from the high school ranks, and there's still a lot to play out. Does Keldon Ryan stick around? Does A.J. Brand stick around? Does he continue to play the quarterback position? As you look at that quarterback room, it'll be very, very interesting. Danny O'Brien, Mike Myasinko, those guys building that out. Next up at the running back position, Javin Gordon was a true freshman running back at Tulane this year, has some other interest from West Virginia and Kansas State as well. Now you think Virginia Tech, they've got a pretty solid core returning there in Jeff Overton. You got Messiah Mickens coming in from the high school ranks, and obviously Marcellus Hawkins coming off the season he did. So the running back position, maybe not a premium. There'll be a couple names on the list to watch. We'll see how intensive they go, but probably some early feelers from Virginia Tech there on Javin Gordon from Tulane, running back. At tight end, and like I said, this is only guys who have officially entered the portal. So when Penn State, I would definitely keep an eye on some tight end names coming out of Penn State, but specifically who's already in and already has an offer, Luke Deneke, tight end from Minnesota Duluth Division II program. So obviously Division II has different transfer rules. So David Rocco, the assistant tight ends coach, offered him back on December 17th. This is someone obviously Ty Howell and his staff, David Rocco, had been evaluating. They sent the offer out. So a name to watch. As they evaluate that tight end room, what do the numbers look like? I'm not sure, but big body frame. I think played basketball, had very, very impressive numbers for the Division II first year. I think he'll have 3 years of eligibility, but that's one to watch. Now, a couple Penn State names that have already entered the portal that I think to keep an eye on. Interior offensive lineman Alex Birchmeyer. This was the former, I believe, number 2 player in the state of Virginia from a couple cycles ago. Hasn't really seen that much action at the collegiate level yet. 51 total snaps in 2025, only 2 on offense. And I know starters are going to be key. They're going to have to go pull some big-time starters from the portal. But depth at all positions, especially offensive line, is a must. They have to build out a full competitive 2-deep so you can have competitive depth in that second level, something Virginia Tech has not had. I've said it a ton, but they haven't had it. And honestly, a lot of elite programs are struggling with the same thing, where you're not building competitive depth because it's just spreading out amongst the P4, the P5, and the dispersion of talent. Anyways, but that would be a name to watch. Alex Birchmeyer on the offensive line. Also coming from Penn State, I think a name to watch. They have him listed at edge. It sounds like he would probably project to defensive line as he continues in his college career. Daniel Jennings from Princeton, West Virginia. It's only about an hour from Blacksburg. Has 4 years of eligibility remaining, I believe. Definitely a name to watch from the Penn State pipeline. Sean Spencer coming in as D-line coach, familiarity there. Sticking on the line, and this is where Virginia Tech, it's going to be quarterback, edge rusher, and definitely offensive line. But quarterback and edge rusher, a name to watch at that edge rusher position as those premier positions in the portal they go after. Paul Hudson, the third, coming from Marshall. He had previous stops at Campbell and Austin Peay, but definitely a name to watch there. Coming from Marshall, edge rusher. Had 4 sacks this year, 2 interceptions. Pretty good frame, and he was originally from Norfolk, Virginia. So as much as they love bringing guys they have high school relationships with back, they also love bringing originally Virginia guys back to Virginia Tech. A couple more names, and if you have questions or names about anyone in the chat, drop them. We'll get to them all. Safety Jaden Blair went to Notre Dame, was a top 247 guy, really highly rated safety coming out of Mount Tabor. Same high school as Snook Peterkin, wide receiver and basketball player on the Virginia Tech football team right now. I would expect Virginia Tech to be involved. James Franklin has a relationship with him from coming down the stretch there in his recruitment at Penn State. I would expect Virginia Tech to kick the tires there as they evaluate the safety position in every position. Another quarterback name, Bryce Baker, former top 247 guy as well. Obviously from North Carolina, committed to North Carolina, early enrolled, spent his year there, and then pretty quickly fell down the depth chart. Johnson was ahead of him. Gio Lopez was ahead of him. And then his his fellow classmate, Torrey Newkirk from Norfolk, Virginia, actually beat him out for that third team job. So he was sitting at the fourth team quarterback, entered the portal, 20 years old, 4 years of eligibility. A lot of potential, was a really, really good preps player. So that's a name to watch. Had Penn State in his final group, was higher on Virginia Tech. So as the quarterback board ebbs and flows as more entries come in, that would be one to watch. A couple other names from Texas A&M. Relationship with Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer, Solomon Wiggins, and Rylan Kennedy. Potential couple names to keep cold. Just an eye on. Troy Everett, originally from Roanoke, Virginia, offensive lineman coming from Oklahoma. Virginia Tech's tried to get involved in the past after his prior transfer, but that could be a name to watch on this one. Has dealt with a couple knee injuries, but definitely a name to watch. Most of all the portal names just listed out there, some early entrants. The best place for all of that is to get over to vtscoop.com, running 50% off on a VIP membership throughout the new year. I've been a little sick, but we've been over there dropping tidbits. It's getting dropped on Reddit. They're getting dropped everywhere. There's no better place to be than vtscoop.com because it's going everywhere. I got people giving me advice on how to get better. I appreciate it. Mike, we're going to try and get to the end of the show. But thank you guys for sticking with me, sticking it out, and we'll try and get some good intel. But okay, let's do just a basic staff roundup. There's been a ton of news, and the show's been super choppy with all the holidays in between. But let's get a solid catch-up. Also, the best place to do that, vtscoop.com. Pinned on the website is the James Franklin Virginia Tech coaching staff update tracker of the latest hires and updates. Obviously, right before we went on there with the breaking news that Virginia Tech landed Doug Shearer, wanted to get his name right, as the new special teams coordinator, as James Franklin is rounding out and building out his staff. But yeah, assistant coaches, offensive coordinator Ty Howell coming from Penn State, defensive coordinator Brent Pry, special teams coordinator Doug Shearer, assistant quarterbacks coach Mike Moyasinko. He was on the staff, I believe, in a tight ends assistant role, but now he's shifted to assistant quarterbacks role. Running backs Norval McKenzie, O-line Matt Moore, tight end still Ty Howell, David Rocco at assistant tight ends, Fontel Mines at wide receivers, Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer at D-line, and then special teams analyst Matt Colangelo, and obviously Rocco in an advisory role, Chuck Lousy, strength and conditioning. And it's got all the back-end support staff there as well. Really great outlet as a lot of these names are coming out. Now, that's sort of the roundup. I'm going to get into a little bit of coaching smoke that I've heard, and then we'll jump straight into Q&A. I see a lot of people lighting up the live chat. Phone's blowing up, so not sure what's going on, but vtscoop.com if anything's going on. But make sure to subscribe to the show, like the video, and it's just some of the smoke. I'm sure we'll get into this in the questions, and I'd be happy to answer all the questions. But definitely something to keep an eye on, as just in talking to different contacts throughout the industry over the last couple of days, there's been a lot about the safeties coach, the cornerbacks coach, the DB coach, and a name that's come up a couple times, Anthony Midget, currently the assistant secondary coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a former Virginia Tech Hokie letterman from 1996 to 1999. Sounds like there's positive momentum there in trending for Virginia Tech there to be the cornerbacks coach. Sounds like there's momentum between Franklin and trying to get that deal done with Anthony Midget to bring him in. In talking to multiple people, spent time with Mike Vrabel as the lead defensive backs coach at the Titans, obviously right now serving in an assistant's secondary role with the Steelers, but brings a wealth of experience, close to a decade in the NFL. And there's also a connection with the Penn State safeties coach in 2013. So there's a connection there. Obviously, he's been out of the college game for a little while, but has taught at the very highest levels in the professional ranks. And like I said, obviously a former Virginia Tech Hokie during a very illustrious run with Frank Beamer at the helm from 96 to 99, was a fifth-round draft pick in 2000, fought it out on a couple practice squads, came back, was a GA at Virginia Tech, I believe, in 2007, and has been in the coaching game since. Rave reviews just in early feelers I've sort of sent out with people who have dealt with him. So someone who's coached at a really, really high level, obviously Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin, some really great minds in the ranks. I believe he went to the Texans with Bill O'Brien, so the connection from Penn State. So, but on the defensive side of the ball, the coach with Tomlin and Vrabel and have pretty big staying power at the men's league, the National Football League. I think it would be an amazing hire for Virginia Tech if they were to get that across the finish line, but definitely a name to watch there at the cornerbacks coach position, Anthony Midget, among some other names. But with that, make sure to subscribe to the show. I know that was a little bit shorter than we normally do. Still fighting off this cold. Can't shake it, but we will. We will prevail. Got a new year, new me. But yeah, let's dump any questions in the live chat. Subscribe to the show. Text your friend to jump in. Any questions? I'm seeing people talking about the transfer portal tracker. We'll have all that going to Colorado in that week. We're going to have the phone up, and we're going to be sending stuff out from the top of the mountain. There will be elite coverage. So make sure to subscribe to this channel. We're going to be going live from anywhere when there's breaking news. And make sure to subscribe. And also follow on the X right there at Kolby_Crawford for all the updates, because it's going to be very busy transfer portal season. It's going to be the first place to see it. BTScoop.com as well. All right, let's jump into these comments, and let's bring in a Happy New Year. Got some really good football coming up as well. New Year's Eve. Cool. Thanks, everyone, again. All right, Amari Smith. Any intel on cornerbacks and safeties coach? Does VT have a shot to land the current Penn State quarterback? Good question. I'm sure that will be touched on a lot more as we go through all these questions and dig in. So intel on cornerbacks coach, just touch on Anthony Midget there a little bit, some of the stuff we're hearing. Safeties coach, still the only real thing you're kind of hearing is Anthony Poindexter. Justin Lustig obviously went a different direction. It does not sound like Poindexter is going to be sticking around in Penn State. Does he follow to Virginia Tech? Have been hearing that. If I had to say, in talking to different people, it's gone back and forth so many different ways, but it feels like Poindexter ends up at Virginia Tech. And does Virginia Tech have a shot at Ethan Grunkemeyer? I believe so, yeah. I mean, I've gone on this show and think there's still so much to play out. It's very early, but there's positive links between both Beulah and Virginia Tech. If they go in that direction, Grunkemeyer is someone who probably has the talent level to go compete for a starting position pretty early. Obviously has a relationship with O'Brien and Franklin. Does Penn State go bring in Rocco Becht, his backup? There's smoke around that. He's someone who's going to want to go compete and probably have a starting job. If you bring in Beulah, what does that dynamic look like? Everything's going to be up for competition. I'm just not so sure if that's someone who's going to want to sit potentially and simmer there for a little bit. So there's a chance. He obviously hasn't even entered the portal yet, but definitely someone to keep an eye on. Andrew saying, sorry, but not impressed with the staff that James Franklin is putting together. I thought we had money to hire better. So I would just retort, which part of the staff were you feeling disappointed in? Norville McKenzie, I have I think a single video on the channel if you want to check it out. The more I've read into him and his recruiting chops and talking to different people, I think that was an incredible hire. I know it was maybe trending that way a little bit to retain Elijah Brooks. Norville McKenzie is a massive step up and obviously has the assistant head coach title. I think that is a really, really big under-the-radar hire. You can point to Ty Howell, inexperience at the offensive coordinator position. I think Danny Rocco, that's pretty big to get him in the fold, someone who's coached a ton of ball at the FCS level, albeit, but I mean, still, even his stops elsewhere. Doug Shearer, I'm not going to lie, I'm not too well versed in him. I mean, if you get the midget or the Poindexter, I don't see how you can really point fingers. Brent Pry, I know Virginia Tech, it's different because it's Virginia Tech. At 120 other FBS schools, you're really excited about that hire most likely. But I can see what you're saying. I mean, you probably wanted some more proven names, which I think a lot of people could have expected. But I think overall, this is one of the most competitive staffs Virginia Tech's put together. When it's all said and done, I think it will be. And Sean Spencer. Yeah, so that's what you just said. Obviously, defensive line hire outside of Sean Spencer. Yeah. John Baker saying, who is Doug Shearer? Well, I was trying to figure out right before we went live. We just landed, and we were trying to figure out who Doug Shearer was. If you want to go back and watch the replay, or there's a story up on VTScoop.com. I'm sure we'll have more coming out. But the new special teams coordinator at Virginia Tech, Doug Shearer, was the former guy at UConn. Doug Bowman just posted all his FEI ranks. Got Kensby saying Kolby's corner has been killing it these past few months. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Got Mike saying, please tell me Peyton Lewis, obviously the Salem, Virginia running back, started his career at Tennessee, is not going to UVA. Has heard UVA is probably going to be involved there. Virginia Tech, hearing different things. I don't think Virginia Tech will be involved there. Maybe kick the tires just slightly, but out of the state schools, I would expect UVA to be more involved than Virginia Tech. But I would also expect him to keep his eye on those SEC Big Ten logos. But if it were to be back closer to home, I think UVA would be a school to watch for sure. Tom, appreciate it, man. Thank you. Amari Smith, portal intel on Tony Rojas and Xavier Chaplin. We'll start with Chaplin. I don't see Xavier Chaplin boomeranging back to Blacksburg, Virginia. I mean, such a high ceiling when you look at his talent level. I know he was ranked so high in the portal, and he struggled this year at Auburn with penalties. And a lot of that was his development at Virginia Tech. A lot of that was his development of when you transfer, you lose the continuity aspect. So now he has 1 year of eligibility left, and he's sort of 2 years behind development. But all the tools are there if he can put it together. I just don't see him landing at Virginia Tech again. And then Tony Rojas is really interesting there for Penn State. Obviously, linebacker from the state of Virginia. I keep saying obviously, but Tony Rojas, linebacker from the state of Virginia, super, super talented player, has all the, just like Xavier Chaplin, but has all the speed measurables, off the chart speed measurables, test extremely well, coming off a knee injury. But still, I mean, if you get back to those speed markers at the linebacker position, it is super impressive. There's some linkage him to the portal. Does Matt Campbell pull it off? There's a whole back and forth on social media. I don't know where it's latest at. There's very, very premier programs after him. We'll see how it shakes out. Does Penn State put together a package to keep him there? It's really up in the air. So we'll see, but I don't see Xavier Chaplin boomeranging back. Got Denzel Jones saying, happy holidays. Appreciate it, man. Do we go after the JMU transfers or only the Power 4 transfers? Virginia Tech will definitely dip down into the G6 and FCS ranks. Look at Marcellus Hawkins. Came up from Division II football last year. Had a very great year. They obviously already sent out the offer to Luke Deneke, Division II transfer tight end. They will look far and wide to get people to raise the ceiling of the team that they're trying to build. The JMU players that have entered, Barnett, some of the other names, I don't expect them to actively pursue, or they have not so far. But the G6 in general, no. Maybe Sahir White, hearing some stuff linking him to UCLA. I'm trying to think about who else entered from JMU. I mean, they'll give a good look to anyone. Obviously, they just flipped JP Oates from JMU on signing day, linebacker from up there in LaSalle College, Pennsylvania. So if you're a quality player, they're going to keep an eye on you. Got visionary season. Shout out Dan saying, can I have your autograph? Dan, we got to run up. I got to get on Tales of the Terror Dome. It's been hectic trying to schedule between being sick and traveling, but you are the man. Make sure to go check out Tales from the Terror Dome. Got Josh saying he's hyped about Coach Chaos, Sean Spencer on the defensive line. This is another one. I talked about Norville McKenzie, and I don't know how I forgot. Maybe it's the sick, brain fog. Sean Spencer, what an elite hire. And, there's always people on the message board that go a little crazy when the hires don't go as quickly or as swiftly as they desire. But, and then they poke holes and you're not landing any of the top guys or you're missing out. Sean Spencer is a top tier defensive line coach. Went up to the NFL ranks. Coached Texas A&M to the number 2 team in sacks, number 1 team in pressure rate this year. From a recruiting aspect, from a technique coaching aspect, you don't get to the NFL ranks if you're not an elite coach. And then also what he does on the recruiting trail, Micah Parsons, developing Nassib into an NFL player. It's, this staff on paper, like I said, when it's all said and done, I know there's a lot of moving parts and Brent Pry that's going to take up so much of obviously the staff and how that's looked just on his perception. But amassing, I think, a very, very quality staff. When you look at it from a year ago, and even in the last 4 years of Brent Pry's tenure, I don't think you've had a nearly even close to competitive staff. And Sean Spencer is a very big part of that. Very big. Sliding through. Appreciate all the questions. If you're just hopping in, subscribe to the show. Drop a question in the live chat. We'll try and touch on it. and then we'll get out of here and ring in a Happy New Year. Mike saying not surprised nor disappointed in anyone that has left for the portal. Definitely no real shocks yet. We'll see. I mean, it was expected to be more of a slower drip. Maybe it's more of a flood as guys start to make announcements in these last couple of days. It's going to be very busy, so make sure to stay plugged in here and on VT Scoop because you're going to be staring down probably close to 35 portal entries coming into Virginia Tech. So I mean, you're going to have people hitting the exit door. It's going to be a very busy time, but a lot to cover. So this is the best place for it. Got Mike saying Dax and Higgins both posting what sound like departures. Yeah, definitely more smoke around Poindexter than Higgins at this time, at least from my end. Does not sound like they're going to be sticking around at State College. Mike saying the Missouri quarterback that we're rumored on, talking about Bo Pribula, that's not the same guy that played against UVA. No, that was Matt Zollers, their true freshman guy. Their other quarterback right before the season who was in a competition with Pribula got hurt. I forget his name. I believe he has eligibility as well. But Matt Zollers, another highly rated guy coming out. But no, Pribula sat out of the bowl game. This is where it's sort of talking about some of the Bo Pribula. He's bad against good defenses. He definitely really struggled when he got to SEC play this year. And there's no getting around that. I mean, I believe at Penn State it was 9 touchdowns to 1 interception, I believe, because he had 20 and 10 on his career, I believe, touchdown to interception ratio. Obviously, very dual threat, dynamic runner, has a good throwing motion, but has definitely shown the ability to put the ball in danger. Overall, though, I think you cut on the place, and there are throws you want back, but to be able to layer the ball and deliver it on time, I think he did an effective job, and you saw improvement. If that's the evaluation from Danny O'Brien and you think you can take that step, I'm just saying, based on the intel of what we're hearing, that is a name to heavily monitor for Virginia Tech, Bo Pribula. Mike, the bowl game quarterback for Missouri. That's Matt Zollers, their true freshman kid. He stepped in a really tough spot when, like I said, their other quarterback was hurt. And obviously, Pribula went out with the dislocated ankle for a couple of weeks. I think he stepped in and played really well in a really tough spot. Andrew talking about Bryce Baker. We touched on that a little bit. Josh bringing up Sam Levitt here from Arizona State. That is not a name that Virginia Tech will get involved with at this level. Got G. Berry 71 saying, do you see any of the current offensive linemen staying? Good question. I always preface this. I really try not to traffic in outing or commenting on intel where you're hearing about players entering the portal before it's official, because there are multiple instances of Virginia Tech, multiple instances on other teams where players are fully in the portal, they're going to enter, and then something changes and everything changes. So I don't really want to speculate or traffic in that. Brody Meadows and Kyle Altuner have both said they're returning. A couple pieces I would keep an eye on for James Franklin to try and retain would be a Nathaniel Wright, a Carter Stallard, some of those younger guys, a Gavin Crawford with eligibility, and as well as a Lath Gannum, someone who's seen a lot of snaps, Johnny Garrett, who's seen a lot of snaps. Obviously, they're having suitors. They're testing the open market, having receiving interest. I know the portal's not open, but it's really kind of open season. I think Virginia Tech's in a good spot with a lot of those players, but crazier things have happened. But, I mean, you've got a pretty solid base there with Altuner, and you'll be able to keep quite a few of those guys up front that you want. And I think you'll be able to pull some guys not only from Penn State but elsewhere in the portal. And, you're going to have a pretty hefty amount to spend, and probably the largest portal class of James Franklin's entire tenure at Virginia Tech would be this year, if I had to guess. Actually, I feel pretty confident saying that, because this is the time he really has to restock and reload, because the cupboard was semi-bare. He wasn't able to build it the way he wanted through the high school ranks. So I think this will be the largest class you see Franklin take in at Virginia Tech. But, yeah, that's some of the stuff on the offensive line. Got Mike saying, any good safeties in our portal pipeline? Talked about Jaden Blair a little bit in that segment. The Notre Dame safety. Trying to think about who else at the safety position that's popped in. Maybe I'm missing someone. I posted that article a couple of days ago. Make sure to get over to vtscoop.com for all the discussion on that. Just scrolling through. Tawfiq Byard at Colorado entered. I know Virginia Tech was involved with him at a former time. Haven't heard anything this cycle. No one is jumping off the page right now. But like I said, there's still a lot to shake out. And retention still has to shake out at the safeties position. Andrew saying Franklin is going to have to kill it in the portal. Roster is terrible. Definitely they're going to go and make some big moves. I think there are parts of the roster that have shown ability and talent and obviously recruited like Brent Pry is still on staff. These are still the guys that he brought in and recruited. So especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's like these are still your guys in a way. There's going to be a lot of departures and cycling out and bringing in and raising the talent level for sure. And they're going to have to kill in the portal to try and get from 3-9 to a 9-3 figure or whatever mark. There's going to have to be pretty radical changes, not only in personnel, but also coaching. And I think that's why landing some of the staff that I think has flown a little bit under the radar. And I'm not trying to look at it with hyped glasses. It's just talking to people that have worked or been around a lot of these coaches that I think not being given enough credit. A Norval McKenzie, a Sean Spencer. And I get it. Ty Howe, very inexperienced. So the offense, Danny O'Brien, only been at it a couple years, young. Like those totally get, but like some of these other names, I think deserve their fair share of credit. Little PSA, Kolby just you don't start it back in. I'm hanging on for dear life. We're going about 20, however many more minutes, and eat some dinner and go to bed. I got to shake this cold. Appreciate you being here, though. Appreciate you sticking it out with me. If anyone wants to just screenshot this. Shout out vtscoop.com, the best community on the internet. Reference a little bit on some of the timing of the hires, but appreciate you gotta love VT Scoop. You got a whole host of personalities, and that's all I'll say on here. And there's really not much more you can say than that. John Baker, are any good players coming to Virginia Tech? Obviously, pretty arbitrary. I believe they will be able to evaluate and find some pretty solid finds through the portal. I'm not sure what's good ranking. 24/7 rankings are bad. I'm hearing on-through rankings are bad. Evaluations are bad. So how about we wait until September 30th and we check back in, and then I'll get back to you, and then I can make my prediction on who's good. Deal? Sounds good. Dave, appreciate it, man. Another VC Scoop legend. Got Taylor Allen Soccer saying, what are the current tea leaves on decks? Yeah, touch on it there a little bit at the end. Appreciate all the comments. Wow, it kind of overflowed there at the end. I'll try to get to all these. But yeah, definitely still, from my end at least, hearing more smoke around Anthony Poindexter leaving Penn State and that most likely landing spot being Virginia Tech. It's gone back and forth a ton. There were times where it didn't feel like it was happening, and it's just based on some conversations, it just feels like that one works its way out. And then, like I said, at the cornerback position, keep an eye on Anthony Midget and talking to different people, former Virginia Tech Hokie. That's definitely a name to watch there, the cornerback position. And then decks at safeties, you're hearing a lot, but and the timeline is what it is. But I just think maybe that there's so many factors. And, it's like, why would it not be done by now? And I do sort of understand that. But it's just at some point you hear so much positive momentum. It's like, okay, maybe it is happening. We'll see. But that one is very up in the air, obviously, with his reputation. And is that the only holdup? I'm not sure. But you hear enough where I think Poindexter does land at Virginia Tech, and keep an eye on Midget for the cornerbacks. Mike, you're going to drop the portal spreadsheet without a doubt. When offers and real smoke keeps rolling, that will be a fixture. So subscribe here. We're going to have that, and follow on X at Kolby_Crawford. for all the updates as portal season heats up. Questions about Poindexter. Ryan, resting up, man. I know we gotta get back all the way. I mean, shoot, I've been off my feet for like a week. What position? G. Barry, Sean Quinn still here? Yeah, good question. It does sound like Sean Quinn was retained in the off the field role. This is someone where in talking to different contacts, it was kind of murky, but yeah, as in the last couple of days, it does sound like Sean Quinn will be retained on staff in an analyst support type role. I'm not exactly sure, but it does sound like he will be retained on the defensive staff. So good question. I'm not sure if we have that listed on the tracker, but it does sound like Sean Quinn will be sticking around. Keep chopping, talking about go get Cam Coleman. I'm not sure Virginia Tech will take a swing at the number one player in the transfer portal. I mean, that class of wide receivers could go down as the greatest high school class. I know Ryan Williams has had a really tough go of it recently for Alabama, but when the ball is in his hands, he is one of the most dynamic playmakers. And to pair with Cam Coleman, I know Wingo's had a tough go of it at Texas a little bit, and Jeremiah Smith. Cam Coleman has really not been able to unleash his talent at Auburn because the people throwing him the football have maybe not been the most well-versed to do that. Cam Coleman, if he lands at a really good school, he's going to have a very long NFL career and put the world. That's a top player in the transfer portal. I'm not sure Virginia Tech gets involved, but he's instantly probably the top player in the portal. This is a good question. Higgins saying, how many recruits are enrolling early in January? Let me pull up the list and try and list off. This is a good article I got to get out, but let me just list. So Terry Wiggins will be early enrolling. Some of these might change and I might be off, but this is mostly right. Wiggins will, Mickens will, Wilder can't, Hune will. I'm not sure if Fat Rat can. Those Richmond privates. Peter Shawn is, I believe. Tyson Harley, I'm not sure because Gonzaga is weird. Azuka, I'm not sure. Zay Cleveland is. Well, no, because he might be hooping. So he might be playing basketball. Purgatory Labindis, I believe, is. Marlon Bright, I believe, is. JP Oates, I think, is. T-Ron is. Lama is. Maddox Cochran, yes. Tyrell Simpson, I believe so. Witherington, I think so. Polydor, I believe so as well. Tyrell Grant, yes. Cam Johnson, yes. Buddy Kent at Woodbury, and then Will Love, yes. I think that's most of them. I believe most are early enrolling, but there's a couple question marks. I might be flipped on a couple. But the overwhelming majority will be early enrolling, yes. Double checking just I know I just retweeted that. Someone asked a question about Doug's FEI rankings, so I'm just trying to find that to double check. Got visionary season. Shout out Dan. UConn special teams was 16th in the SP plus. So maybe my figures from Doug were wrong, but I mean, yeah. Either way, obviously I wasn't overly familiar with Doug Shearer, but seems like has had a pretty solid track record coaching special teams. Got Skyhawk. Good question here. Appreciate all the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you're still sticking out. The real viewers here are going deep into the Q&A. This always means the world when everyone sticks out to this. Skyhawk91F2U saying, do you think we get a lot? Virginia Tech gets a lot of transfer signings on day one of the portal opening, or does James Franklin already have a loaded gun that he's just waiting to fire off? I think you'll see announcements a lot on that first day of guys entering still. I don't think you'll see commitments immediately on that first day. I think you will see definitely some, but I think it'll be delayed just a little bit. Now, is that for optics or yes? I think they have early impressions on certain players for sure, but I think you won't see real commitments until a couple days after. Mike, it will be coming out soon, man. got muted. What prize a better defensive coordinator than a head coach? He'll probably look a lot different with a lot less weight on his shoulders. What he did at defensive coordinator at Penn State before coming to Virginia Tech is still pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, even what he did that first year calling the defense at Virginia Tech, top 50, top 45 defense, total defense, with the roster Virginia Tech had in 2022. When you look back at that roster, I think that was impressive in its own right, let alone what he did at Penn State, a little up and down. But, I mean, I think his most recent time calling plays was really impressive at Virginia Tech with what he was held available to. Andrew talking about Matt Henderson. That's one of those tight ends to keep an eye on coming from Penn State. Obviously hasn't made his intentions clear, but a Virginia guy from Powhatan, Virginia, definitely one to keep an eye on. Connor talking about DJ Lagway. I do not expect Virginia Tech to be involved in the DJ Lagway sweepstakes at quarterback in the transfer portal. And then also parlaying that with Christopher asking about Colton Joseph. Do not see Virginia Tech pursuing Colton Joseph. Had brought him up previously on this show, on this program, a couple weeks back. Obviously, Ronnie's relationship with Franklin and being so close to Colton Joseph gives a great personal eval. As good as you can get. These coaches all the time ask each other, transferring up, down, wherever. And when you have a relationship with Ronnie to Franklin, he's going to tell him exactly how it is, as opposed to how you would maybe even talk to another coach. So it just sounds like they're going to move in a different direction at quarterback. Hey, say nice house plant. We're on the road game. We got this set up just 2 seconds prior to going live. Seeing questions on Aiden Green. No real news there. I mean, definitely up in the air. Aiden's had, I mean, a lot of these players, most of these players that you're thinking about have had other shooters, and let alone testing NFL waters already on their radar for a lot of these guys. But definitely other shooters have been in their pockets for a cycle or multiple cycles. I think Virginia Tech has an opportunity to definitely retain a lot of these guys that they want to, but there's just a whole lot that goes into it. And, you know, Aiden's got 1 year of eligibility remaining before he's out, and, you know, you make that jump. So a lot of factors that go into it. Not going to say too much more on that, as he obviously hasn't made a public decision yet, one way or another, if he's re-signed or entered. I think Virginia Tech's in a fine spot. Obviously, what is it? Tie always goes to the runner, and as long as you're still signed, and I think you'll see some of that with Penn State and Matt Campbell. Retention gets a little bit easier when you're actually already at the school, but still definitely something to play out there. Andrew talking about Lamar Morgan from Michigan. He signed the #1 player in Virginia last year. And this is good. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I know people from VTScoop.com are plugged in here. P1, Tier 1 fans, thank you guys for rocking with me. Like, truly, I mean, it means the world. It really does. But I know everyone's watching my Twitter follows very closely, and people thought me following Lamar Morgan semi-recently, I guess. I followed him for a while, but people led that to assume that he was going to be the next cornerbacks coach or a name to watch. I mean, I guess if Beck or Whittingham brings back and he brings his own quarterbacks coach, that'd be interesting. I don't think they probably go that way for corners. Like I said, been talking to a couple of different people around the industry and heard Midget's name come up more for Virginia Tech at this time. Amari Smith, good question. Travis Johnson, Andre Clark. Travis Johnson is certainly locked in with Michigan. Andre Clark, a little murky at this time, and I said this a couple of days ago on the site. Haven't really followed back up on it. I would still presume he signs with Michigan at this time. But Travis Johnson is certainly locked in. Both those guys, 2 Virginia prospects. With the whole Michigan ordeal, it sounds like they're going to stick it out. Someone talking about drones versus Perbula. I think Perbula is definitely more evolved as a passer. No, I mean, definitely, I know that interception figure is going to, people are hounding me for it just because I'm relaying that there's mutual interest there. People are saying I'm trying to push a narrative of propaganda, but there's just interest there between Virginia Tech and Bo Pribula. We'll see how it shakes out. I think either way, you'd be stepping up quarterback play from a year ago. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's still a whole lot to play out. Dominoes will fall. Yeah, talking about Javin Gordon, I believe, true freshman running back. For, like I said, early feelers. The portal's not even officially open. It's kind of the wild, wild west, but just an early name to watch, just based on what we're hearing and talking to different people. Got muted what? Talking about bringing in Sean Spencer, trying to retain Kamari Copeland. Copeland's someone, obviously, who will test so extremely well at the NFL Combine and at his own pro day and such. I wouldn't rule out the NFL option, but I think Virginia Tech is – I mean, there will be other suitors as well. So there's still stuff to play out there. I think Virginia Tech will put themselves in a decent – pretty good spot overall to know that they put chips in the middle to try and keep Kamari Copeland. Rex, appreciate you joining late. Make sure to go back and watch the replay if you haven't. Tell a friend to subscribe. But just got here, so I probably missed it. But how many players do you think we are looking to take in the portal? I would say probably close to a 35 figure would be fair to bring in through the transfer portal. Close to 35, which is a pretty big number, and I could definitely see that being inflated to even more. I think this will definitely be the largest portal class James Franklin ever takes at Virginia Tech. And like I said, those emphasis points will certainly be the quarterback position, the edge rusher position, and then the offensive line. Those premier positions certainly will be targeted. Andrew saying, you hear anything about Matt Outen from Penn State possibly transferring? Obviously, I gotta stop saying obviously. He committed to Virginia Tech. I was there on the day in Portsmouth, Virginia. I still remember that day. Awesome family. Has a really awesome brother. His brother played with DeQuan Felton in Portsmouth. Side note, but was there when Matt Outen originally committed to Virginia Tech, and then months later flipped his commitment. Actually, I believe he flipped live to Penn State when I was on the drive. Shout out Nels Williams on the drive, ESPN Blacksburg, and flipped later into the football season. So this is someone where, and this was actually a really good behind the scenes story. Evan G. Watkins posted on Twitter the other day, it was like the 2 year ago memory from the Military Bowl. And on that car ride back from the Military Bowl, it was just me and him in his truck, and we were just talking shop. And this was great chat because you're literally just talking ball for 3 hours back from the DMV area down to the 757. And that was a name that came up really before he was on the radar. I mean, it was unrated by 24/7. My sister just texted me, obviously. I've been saying obviously a lot. Was not on the radar of 24/7, had no stars. Offers were pretty sparse. And this was a name that we both sort of talked about. Like, this guy could really pop off. I remember that so specifically in that truck ride back home. I almost commented under that 2 year ago picture and talked about that because there is a pathway for Matt Outen back to Virginia Tech. Would definitely be one to keep an eye on with Fontel Mines connection, the James Franklin connection, amongst other things. But certainly Matt Outen, I remember that truck ride. And before he kind of blew up, I mean, he's elite measurables and tangibles. Certainly one to keep an eye on, though, Matt Outen. But a funny story. So, yeah, in a roundabout way, a little backstory on Matt Outen. But, yeah. All right, let's check on these last couple comments and let's go eat some dinner. Quinn can recruit Nova, certainly. I mean, when you talk to, I guess I can say here in the area, as I'm currently in the nation's capital, when you talk to players, even that don't give Virginia Tech maybe a shake and they're getting recruited by a larger SEC or Big Ten programs, they always have a deep respect and reverence for how intentional Coach Quinn was, and even following up after just checking in on them genuinely. Matthew Lamar, great example of that. Committed to Penn State, didn't visit Virginia Tech, was locked in, and Coach Quinn just kept checking in consistently, not even trying to flip him the way he just made it sound so genuine, which is rare these days when there's not a benefit always on the back end. I have not heard that name. DJ Squirrel, Braden Atkinson from Mercer. I have not heard that name. Got Dave saying what remodeling is going on inside of Merriman. It sounds like more small scale remodels, lights, paint, just some basics. I don't think they're going to get into any large scale infrastructure changes just yet, but they will definitely be doing some big fresh up touching ups on the interior. You can really beautify and get that more modernized and updated pretty quickly. I think that's what they're doing. Some of the offices and such. Patrick Thompson talking about, are they finally getting LED lights in Lane Stadium with the 20 million? I mean, with those funds, I would certainly think LED lights are going to be pretty high on that docket. Obviously, they already have the contract out for the board, the video board, and the audio system. Doug Bowman is really, I got to have him on the show another time here, and as we get past the portal and some of the lull period, to talk about all the money they've allocated for that. I mean, he's the man for that. I mean, nothing official yet on the LED lights, but certainly would be coming down the pike semi soon with all those funds. Because I mean, look, realistically, the in-game venue experience at Lane Stadium, entertainment, great, and all. Just being fortunate enough, I mean, I've had a dream fall, and like a lot of this is possible because of you guys. So I need to emphasize how thank you guys. Subscribe to the show. You made a ton of this possible. But to get up to Happy Valley and see a game in Beaver Stadium, to go down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and see an in-venue experience there in Doak Campbell. I mean, Doak Campbell Stadium after the renovation, Lane Stadium, entertainment, it's a classic. Yeah. And it keeps you relevant, but you really need to evolve and bring up the in-game experience at Lane. And I think that's something James Franklin, raising tide lifts all ships. And I think that's something he's definitely going to keep an eye on. Higgins, Cam Selden entered the transfer portal, so don't see that one happening. Got G Berry. Well, I think we'll close out on this. Appreciate all the support, everyone. Bringing in quite a few, but can we expect some of the young players to be developed? Coney, Mason, Brandon, Wimbush. I mean, some of those young guys, they've been in the system now for a couple years, 2-3 years, and the writing's on the wall for some of them. I mean, it'll be a base case by case basis, but I think some of those guys, writing sort of on the wall in this day and age of college football, you can't really. Development is still really big, and it's kind of tragic that it's turned that way where you need kind of like instant results. It's just the transfer portal era. James Franklin got fired from a job where he had a decade of success after going 3-3. There is no patience anymore. So it'll be certainly interesting to pan out. That's a good question. Pat Thompson, which freshman do you see being the biggest contributor in 2026? If I just had to guess, this is tough because positional need, I would just go out and say Amari Polydor. At the cornerback position, I could see him playing interior on Richardson on the defensive line. I could see him getting reps. Those are two names that stand out. Good question. All right, we're going to wrap it there. Thank you guys so much. I think that's pretty much it. But what an incredible 2025. Not going to have a show Wednesday night. If any breaking news comes out, we will record here from our live studio. I know I'm definitely going to have some comments on the walls are thin here, so from some other people as we chow down dinner after this. But thank you guys so much. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video. Share the show with a friend. The portal is just heating up. That was some early intel. But for all the intel, vtscoop.com is the place you need to be. So subscribe to the show. Have a happy and safe new year. Spend it with quality people. Take care of one another. Be nice to one another. Peace out.